Church is a place where you get to practice what it means to be human. James Luther Adams. Aloha, my name is Allison Jacobs. I am Vice President of the Board of this church, and I am co-facilitator of a dialogue on race and ethnicity. Today I am summarizing the Congregations and Communities section from the Widening Circle of Concern report. Many UU congregations are in trouble with dwindling memberships, participation, and financial contribution. Church-going is less valued by many younger generations. Clearly, alternative and virtual communities need support. The Commission on Institutional Change called on the UUA President, Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Ray, to release an analysis of the decline of the number of congregations over the past decade. This analysis underscored the importance of large-scale systemic change to ensure the survival of our faith community. This is needed to prevent us from going through the decline experienced by mainstream and evangelical communities. Reports indicate that multicultural congregations are on the rise. Progressive-minded working-age adults expect the basic practices of equity, inclusion, and diversity, some things that many of our congregations unfortunately lack currently. Many accounts of microaggressions are recounted at the local, regional, and national levels. Many congregations are often unaware that the experiences people of color have within their walls are off-putting and not welcoming. That is because people of color have experienced a lack of safety in the congregation when being honest. The UUA needs to develop and support leadership that brings needed change. It is not easy for most congressional leaders to discuss systemic racism and white privilege, especially when they are asked to do so without the support of the UUA. Expectations are changing, and we have gone from focusing on diversity to understanding that the focus needs to be on racial equity. The culture of many congregations is not keeping pace with the expectations of new generations for anti-oppression practices. In order for the UU to survive as a faith movement, we must have reform at a congregational level. Our congregations can no longer afford to have the characteristics of elite social clubs. UUA member congregations must act as independent bodies as well as being in coordination, covenant, and communion with other congregations. Too many congregations are disconnected from the issues and resources of the association. One of the many recommended congregational practices to increase equity, inclusion, and diversity is to appoint someone from each congregation to be a liaison to UUA. Congregations need promising practices, including resources on caucusing, to support oppressed and marginalized groups. We need to work towards a congregational model that can serve generations with new practices around diversity and equity, as well as covenant and commitment. These values, not comfort, should be the binding fabrics of UU congregations and other communities. Congregations with an interest in incorporating more practices aimed at increasing equity, inclusion, and diversity into all their work have taken the brave step of conducting racial and multiculturalism audits. It is mandatory that UUA develop a common frame of anti-oppression training and multicultural competency for all regional staff, for those trained to advocate for UU professionals during times of conflict, and for regional boards and entities to help prevent injury and wrongdoing. Congregations that wish to undertake anti-oppression measures at this time are largely on their own. Many are unaware of existing resources, and in some cases, there are no resources available to them by the UUA. This must change. UUA must curate the best resources out there and regularly allow congregations to know that the resources have been updated. Congregations interested in becoming more equitable, inclusive, and diverse should be connected in a virtual learning network and should be provided information about how to be mission-focused in their work and how to work with leaders who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color in respectful rather than tokenizing ways. The 2020 General Assembly has shown that it is possible to conduct General Assembly virtually, and by doing so, it has addressed the concerns that GA was an expensive and elitist gathering which disproportionately affected people of color and also left a large carbon footprint. Last year's virtual GA was accessible to people in many different income brackets, and there was a much larger representation of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Hopefully, we will continue to have some form of a virtual GA in the future. Thank you.